Yeah, that's a blue gem, and it really only took like 2 cribs on it.
Let's go. Let's go. Another episode of Blue Gems podcast with my man, Casey Quinn.
What's up, brother?
Quick intro, man. Tell us what's up. How are you doing in the real estate game? All that good stuff.
Yeah, sure. It's a loaded question, right? So I'll keep it short and let you kind of probe me where you want ultimately, right? But Pittsburgh based, been here my whole life, love this place. Started investing in real estate about 5 years ago. I had a W-2 job. I was a CPA by trade, corporate America, world forever. Got fired actually, right? I took a CFO job at a local real estate company. Spent about 10 months there and actually got fired and realized I could do real estate and do this better. Found a really great business partner, and then we built City Life Residential to over $100 million, probably right around $110 million in asset value. Close to about 1,000 units. We're right under 1,000 units in total. And then build companies off that. We do some wholesaling, not trying to scale that business, but obviously to lower our marketing costs there. We have a Remax franchise brokerage, but again, super small, super boutique there. But then we have a construction company that we're scaling pretty well. We just went through a merger. So that merged business will do 12 to 15 million top line this year. We'll see where the year plays out. And then property management company, mostly managing our units. We had scaled it early, kind of fell back, and now we're scaling it again. That's right around 1,100. So, only about 200 extra units, about 150, 200 more than what we have. But, that business is quickly scaling as well. And then being a CPA, right, guys, realizing that there's a lot of folks out in the world that want to invest in real estate that need a lot of help in their back office, whether it's infrastructure scaling their business or just becoming more bankable, right, to be able to keep more real estate and understand what's happening for them financially. And so we started that business as well about 2 years ago. And that's, we're up to about 30 employees in that business. We'll probably end the year right around maybe 3 million top line and, less than 2 years old. So it's scaling very well. We got some good partners and, it's going well. So yeah, we're buying a home about every 3 days right now on the real estate side, trying to help as many clients as we can over on the accounting side and managing the best we can, creating a better life here in Pittsburgh for all of our tenants and investors and, everybody we work with.
Damn, what a resume. in such a short period of time too.
Yeah. A little over 5 years now. I actually got fired from my job, right? I got fired in March of 2019. So I had a full-time job in March of 19, got fired. A couple of weeks at LA Fitness, staring at the basketball hoop at the ceiling, figure out what I was going to do with my life because I wasn't going to stop and whatever. So I was standing at the gym trying to figure out. Ironically, actually, at that time, I was going to start a bookkeeping company myself, where I was just going to go around to all the real estate agents in the Pittsburgh and say, "I'll do your bookkeeping because I know you need help." Long story short, I actually did that with my City Life business partner. He was a real estate agent that started investing. And so I started doing his books for $25 an hour. And, that lasted a whole 2 weeks. And we decided to partner and build City Life to what it is today. I said, "Look, dude, I just need you to go find real estate and I'll do the rest from the business side of it, from the financing side, right? The banking side and all of that." And so he did. And, here we are. 64 months in.
What a combo. Now, did your partner already have real estate experience as well, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so he was a real estate agent. He was doing about 10 million as a real estate agent, had a really small team. They were doing like 10, 12 million a year on the retail side. He had started, he has 19 rentals. So he had started buying some rentals previous to our partnership. So he had about 19 total rent units in his portfolio, and he still does, kind of his legacy assets. At that point, we said, "All right, we'll keep your 19. Our management company that we're going to start will manage those for arm's length. Everything else moving forward is part of City Life business." So he was investing a little bit before that. He had actually started a wholesale because he couldn't figure out how to keep more of the property at that point, right? He basically grew to his max. And started a wholesale and tried to figure that out at the time. And that's when, we kind of partnered and took it from there.
And how many years in corporate life before you ended up getting fired?
Yeah, about 10 in total. Public accounting, Ernst & Young, where I, kind of got my roots, started my career. quite frankly, bounced around a lot. I was there twice, was at Grand Thorn, but out total about 10 years, right? I'm 36 right now. So take 5 years off. I was about 30, 31 ish when all that kind of went down. Graduated college with an accounting degree and started my career out 21, 22, 23, whenever the normal years. So, call it 8, 10 years, something like that before I kind of really, I guess, became an entrepreneur. Still kind of pitch myself that I am an entrepreneur, right? I never really imagined I could be, but yeah, that's kind of the timing.
Yeah, that was my next question. Did you ever plan to start your own thing, or you were going to stay in the corporate world for forever, per se?
I like these questions because it's very rare that people kind of take me back to those days. But, I never thought, I always just wanted to, I love Shark Tank my whole life, right? It's kind of funny that I say that, but like I grew up on Shark Tank, right? Like in those years, and I've always I love the idea of business. I still love business. I was a huge athlete, so I just play business out of sport, right? It's just, so I'm trying to win every day. But I was always like, dude, I'm not creative. So I'm never going to be able to come up with a product to be able to sell, to like start this crazy cool idea and go build this business. So the dream of that reality to me was never real. But my thought process along the way for all those years was just work harder than everybody else. I truly believe that, all those years, I said, if I work 2 years for every 1 year somebody else works, right? If they work 40 hours a week, I work 80. In 10 years, I'll have 20 years of experience compared to their 10. They're not going to be, I'm not smarter than anybody. If I outworked everybody, I would gain the experience and knowledge to be smarter than them. I'm going to work twice as hard as every single person out there. Particularly, right? I started at Ernst & Young, and quite frankly, I didn't get the job. It's funny, really quick story. I don't want to digress. I went through the entire interview process for intern, and then anybody knows this world, it's really competitive for an intern that didn't get anything done full time, didn't get anything. So like my plans were to go to law school and just keep partying in college and like grow up later on. Anyways, offices remerged territories. 2 jobs opened up in Pittsburgh. And so I guess I was at the top of the list of people that didn't get a job offer. So they called me and said, hey, if you haven't found another job yet, like we don't want to go back out and hire you. So like you could be the 22nd person that starts in the A1 class here in Pittsburgh. You want the job. $43,500 a year salary. I said, sign me up.
Shoot.
Right. So I think that's when I started my career. I started a job, but I didn't so I started with the mindset of I'm the dumbest in my F1 class. In Pittsburgh, by the way. Pittsburgh's a small city. So I'm like, I'm basically the dumbest person in this country. Mindset that I had. And so the only way to kind of catch anybody was to work hard. And so that was my goal. So it's always been my goal was always to sell work everybody. And that's sort of still my mantra around it. I'm not smart than anybody, but if I get enough experience, I can compete with them. Egos put people on the sidelines at the end of the day. And if I don't have that, I continue to work hard. I'm never going to be on the sideline. I'll keep growing. So that's the backstory to the thinking around all of that.
And then what skills do you think translated the most, right? Coming from the accounting world. You mentioned a CFO role briefly. Anything that translated over directly into the early days?
Yeah, I think the accounting and the finance, right? We knew our numbers better than anybody. And so early on for us, we were not selling anything. We were burr modeling everything, right? We had no money. So like the very first deal that we did, we dive into that, right? The very first deal that we did was a $40,000 home. Section 8, it was Section 8 already rented. Actually, it's still rented to the same exact tenant today. The very first property we bought for $40,000, we knew it was worth $65,000. So we were able to convince a local hard money lender to give us 100% finance. Closed on the 100% financing, and then immediately went to the bank and said, hey, here's a deal that's rented for $1,200. We bought it for $40,000, for $65,000. Will you give us whatever? We got 80% loan to value. I don't know the exact number. They said, yeah. So like we made a couple $1,000, and then we just rinse and repeat. We bought a property down the street, 221 Freeland. I think it was our second deal. It was like $60,000. Put like $20,000 into it, made it 110. Got 90L, made another 10 grand. And but we literally tracked to the exact dollar. I knew my days turn, meaning I knew exactly the day I bought it, to the day I refinanced it, understanding that the cost of capital was everything in business from day one because we didn't have money. Every day mattered, right? And early on, we were paying $200 some a day for capital. And I've been able to beat that significantly down, right? But I knew that was the game forever. Like $500 difference in a window meant nothing. And so to your question of how that translates, that's how it translated for us. Is we ran this game like a finance game from day one. Days and time and cost of capital mattered more than construction or property management or anything. And so if you could really skinny that up, you're saving $3,000-$4,000 a deal. That's making great. If you do 20 deals, that's $100,000 in earned income that you can live off, right? Because I had no money. I was not making money. And so that was a significant amount of cash. Every deal, $2,000 difference was huge for us. And so monitoring the cost of capital and having my accounting background and finance background allowed us to do that, what I think is better than, still to this day, better than anybody that's not, a true, hedge fund investor, right? With all their data and capital, but it's math 101, right? I to this day still call us a finance company. We're a finance company that uses real estate as a vehicle to create equity, and so that's what helped us get to where we're at today, without a doubt, in my opinion. And my ability to see, right? The other thing was I saw so many businesses, and I've probably been inside 1,000 businesses over my 10-year career on the consulting side, especially. And so, culturally, I knew, particularly the place that I had just left was awful. I mean, he had 500 some units. Everybody was an assistant. Culture was horrible. So it turned was awful, right? But people can't really create culture and scale. So my background of all of that, we really realized, like, if you invest in people the right way, you give them service, you give them a meeting, you treat them well, you take care of them, you do all of those things, you're going to be able to really create a scalable business. So that's the other thing those are the two biggest takeaways. It's just pure math, finance, accounting ability to scale real estate. And then two, how to actually run and create company, create people that are actually happy coming to work, which is then to create better work, which is going to allow you to trump and ultimately scale. It's not like we know every business has people problems, right? And so if you can minimize people problems, you can maximize your growth. And so, that's really the two biggest takeaways I would tell you from our previous life that really resonated well to allow us to go from, I think we have over 100 people across all of our businesses at this point. We're all along that really except shooting a basketball and LA Fitness, not knowing where I was going because I didn't have any money.
That's amazing. Let's actually dig into that a little bit, right? Because you said some interesting things like culture, scaling, people, and sometimes it's pretty difficult to scale, continue to train and hire and develop team members and hold them accountable. Something that we're actually struggling with in our business right now, right? We're scaling appropriately, onboarding tons of properties, but how do we keep the culture and then also the accountability for the team members to keep pushing as well?
Yeah, I think it's two things. The first thing that I would tell you unequivocally when you're thinking about that people side of it is you've got to really always be massively thinking about how to make them happy, right? What is their dream, their vision, their goals in terms of how the happiness that it creates for them? If you always think about that, number one, people will always do better work, right? When they're happy. They come to work happy, they're going to do a better job. Short term, look, they're going to fight through it. They want a paycheck. They have kids. They have goals. They're going to do that. But long term, the work product will suffer if you don't try to really think about how to make them happy. Everybody's different. I think the best way to do that is, number one, figure out what makes you happy and live that life. And I don't mean the Rolls Royce and the beach trips and that makes you happy. Of course, that makes you happy. The freedom of that makes you happy. But what makes you happy is being you every day. Be authentic and true to yourself. Basically, beating expectations. Right? I forget who said this, but I heard an old saying around the definition of creating happiness is essentially beating expectations. Right? If you want to go on a beach trip for a week and you think it's going to be 90 degrees sunny, and let's say you're single and you like women, we're three dudes, you like women and there's bitches everywhere and it's amazing and you have a great time, right? That's what you expect. And you get there and it's 30 degrees and there's a tornado and it's raining the entire week. Guess what? You're miserable. You're not going to have a good time, right? Because you didn't beat expectations. Let's say you were going to go to the beach and you knew it was 60 degrees and rainy the whole time. You're going to end up being 90 and sunny the whole week. Guess what? You're happy because it beat expectations. So to me, happiness is creating the ability to beat expectations. And the only way to really do that is to be true and authentic to yourself and who you are, right? Don't fake who you are. If you don't like wearing cool shoes, don't wear cool shoes, my language. Don't wear cool shoes. It's not you, right? And so you're faking who you are, which is creating a false reality. So just be you, be authentic to yourself, and allow others to do that. To me, is the very number one fundamental way to create a culture of which people are happy. Fun things, we do a lot of that. Certainly don't disagree with the fun things and all of that, but it's just being authentic. Number two then is creating structure to allow yourself to do that and allow people to be focused on what it is that there's top priorities and having insurance around accountability. Like accountability is everything in scaling business because without it, nothing gets done. We run on EOS, Entrepreneurship Operating System. All four of my main businesses have their own independent EOS coach, independently run on EOS, and they independently have their own leaders in their organization, of which create and foster the community of which is that business and accountability on down into each other. No good employee ever in this world will tell you that they don't want accountability. I think that's so fundamental to business because if they don't, then you don't want them around, right? Name me one, like you guys. You want to be held accountable, right? You want to know if you've been successful. And if you're not, you want to understand why so you can get better and improve. Everybody, that's our human nature to want that. If you don't want that, you want to be able to do whatever you want, slide by. Well, we don't want them people in any place called. There's nobody that wants them in your culture because they're going to try to snake by and squeeze by the entire time, right? So creating that avenue for accountability as well as core values, like being authentic to who you are so that can flush through as well. What's the vision and the mission? And then what are our goals, right? EOS provides that foundation for everything to really be able to focus in on what's important, work together as a team and understand what that is, and all be rowing the boat in that same direction. So those are the two fundamental things to me that I believe create success and quite frankly, massively the reason why we're successful in all of our companies that we've been able to do over the last 5 years. And more important than that, the 1,000 companies I've seen, every company that I went into, the ones that were having a lot of success and the ones that were not having a lot of success, in my opinion, pretty much boiled back down to those two. Miserable people coming to work do not do good work. So if you got, right, I was in finance transformation. I walk into a big company and I go into their AP department and they have 25 people sitting in their AP department, right? Various jobs within AP. Well, like if 18 of them are absolutely miserable, you feel that the moment you walk in. Like nobody wants it. Guess what? That group of 25 people, they're not doing good work. They're not improving the business. They're just trying to get by and go home, right? But imagine if you create a culture where those people love to be there every single day. They're excited about the work they're doing. They're trying to create results to better the business and better whatever it is that they're doing. Compound that every single day now for 365 days a year. Think about the difference in that, right? And the only key difference in the two was someone's happy coming to work or not. So that's why I believe, right, and everything that I've ever seen in my life all boils back down to how are you running the everyday operational? And to me, the best piece that I've found for small business, I think there's risk that we're going to outgrow it at the end of the day in certain businesses, but EOS has unequivocally been that. You know, I won't even invest in a business or start another business that's not going to run on EOS pretty much from day one. Not at this point in my career, because I just know how powerful it is in order to successfully run and scale a business to make money at the end of the day, which is the goal of all of this in the game of life that I call business.
And how does someone get started, right? So they hear your advice. Casey says I should be on EOS, but what would you say is the first step? Especially maybe in a company where the culture has been so below average for maybe, 2, 3, even 5 years. How do you change that and move and have that culture shock of implementing something like EOS?
Yeah, that's a great question. Fundamentally, right, if it's truly the beginning, I would say go read the book Traction. And depending on your business size, if it's you and a partner or you a partner and an administrative assistant, it's kind of what you have right now. Go read the book Traction and just start to take some of the principles out of that. Really reflect on that book and say, what are the most important principles in here? And start there, almost like self-implementation. But if you're only 3 of you, 4 of you, whatever, you don't need to massively go hire a coach, pay $25,000 a year and do all of those things because you're not big enough yet, right? So fundamentally, I'd say it's number one. The second part of your question, right, if you have a culture and you have people and it's kind of been that miserable state or like, we're kind of flailing, we haven't grown, we've been at 3 million top line and $100,000 a year bottom line and in the same way, but whatever, right? It's just culture shock, right? You got to have tough conversations. Like that's the biggest thing. Like, it's funny, right? I'll tell you a quick story. I was out at, Alex and Lila Hermosi's 2-day workshop at acquisitions.com, Monday, Tuesday of this week. And, Lila made a comment that resonated so incredibly well with me where she said, how much of your life and how much of your business decisions or anything you're trying to do to create momentum and progress forward has been stalled? And how long has it been stalled for because you're scared to have that 30-minute conversation with somebody? It resonates so much with me, right? But you just got to be willing to have a conversation, have a communication around what's not working. Literally today or yesterday in our construction company, the CEO of our construction company that we merged with, we had a $300,000 a year guy in that business. And we had to have a tough conversation with him and he decided, leave the company. And it is what it is, right? Because we're putting a culture in place, put a mechanism of which we can measure each other, measure success, and all get on the boat rowing it in the same direction, meaning what is our goals? And then we're going to work back from a 10-year goal to a 3-year goal to a 1-year goal to 90-day goals. And if you don't want to get behind that and support it, be held accountable to your job within that. I understand, no problem. You gotta go. Can't be here anymore. You're not going to be happy. We're not going to be happy. And the goal of all of this thing is to create happiness. Otherwise, what are we living for? And so having that conversation is so important because that allows you to do that. And that's why being true authentic to yourself lets you really understand who you want around you and not. Someone's going to be around you and make you miserable. Get them out of there because they're going to be. So it's a hard conversation to get them out, but it's the best for them, just not the best today. But everybody, right, long term, is going to be the best for them. A couple of years ago, I had to actually lay off 14 people and the rates doubled overnight, right? After crazy COVID push. Well, my company was built to scale, rates doubled overnight. We couldn't burn like we were burned. We had to take a massive pause. We actually had to lay 14 people off. Single hardest day of my life, bar none, right? Well, business-wise. Single hardest day of my business life. And I cried. I literally cried. That's, I don't cry. I cried. And, thinking back, it was the best thing that's ever happened to all 14 of those people. They just didn't know it at the time, nor did I, right? But they just weren't the right people at the end of the day for our company, where we were going, what we were trying to do, because of the values, because of they're great. Every one of them was great people. They're just wire aligned with what we were trying to do, the way that we ran our core values, our goals, and our missions, and thus it didn't make sense. Now most of them are happier, right? At the end of the day. And that's ultimately the hard conversations that need to happen. So that's what I would tell you from a turnaround perspective, right? If that's you, as a leader inside of a business that's struggling and a lot of people are happy, you're trying to build momentum and you want to get on EOS. Number one, if you're not, get on it. Number two, use the framework within that, within the book of traction, within the coach that runs the traction book. Get inside of that framework, use that to help your advantage to determine if people are, on board or not, right? Or they're on the boat steering the direction you are or not. Because that allows you to create the framework to understand, hey, what are my real core values? What is my real vision? What is my real mission? What goals do I really have? Okay, here all it is. Now we know who I am. Do you fit this or not? If you don't, well, we're going to have a tough conversation, right? And so that's how I would recommend it to answer your two-part question. One being to get started, and two being if you're in a business that, isn't going as hot in performance-wise, how to kind of turn that around.
Do you think it's ever possible to be too extreme on the employee happiness component? So to give you an example, let's say the culture is amazing, employees are super happy, but not a lot of work is being done. And you're struggling to maybe push the envelope or hold them accountable because you don't want to come off too mean or however you want to frame it. Have you seen that in any of your organizations where the employees are super happy, but productivity is still low?
Yeah, I think you got to define what happiness really is first and foremost in that situation. Meaning, what are you trying to do? What is your goals? And folks around you have the same goals in line, right? So in city life, particularly early on, it was wildly clear that our goal is to scale at all costs. We were going to scale the portfolio no matter what, and we were going to work our butts off to do it. And so very quickly, right, happiness was not there anymore if you were not aligned with doing that, And so that's the key to it all is everybody's got to understand what that is. And that's how they're going to, if they're happy coming to work and working 2 hours a week, 2 hours a day, it's spending the other 6 cooler. That's not happiness that I want. That's not real happiness, right? The happiness that I want to create is the happiness for people to go after your goals and reach what it is that they're trying to achieve in life, whether that be whatever it is, right? I don't care what it is my point. And then how do we framework that, right? I always say, I want your personal goals to align with our business goals. And if they don't, that's okay. We just have to have that on the table and understand it, know when it's going to end. Right. So we've had I've had an employee come into the business, perfect example in acquisitions, came to my partner and said, "Hey, I just want to be doing what you guys are doing." Great. Like, how do we make this work? Well, I want to come in, you pay me X, I'll run your acquisitions, I'll build it. And when I'm ready, I'm going to go out and do my own thing. Cool. Love that. Let's do it. Right. Meaning we're aligned, we're communicating, we know it's going to end. He's going to help us by building this infrastructure for us. And he's going to help himself because he's going to learn everything he's going to learn from us teaching him all of it. Right. But as long as we're aligned and knowing that and communicating, like, I don't believe in a 2-week quit rule, like 2-week notices. Like, bro, if you're having problems, you don't want to be here, you were kind of talking to me, let me help you get a job. By the way, I know a lot of people in the industry that you're in, call me, right? And maybe it's not 2 weeks because I need you here 4 weeks to kind of roll it off and get someone else in place. But in the meantime, I'll also help you go look for a better job or help you decide if that's the right place for you by asking you the right question. If the whole society and the whole world could be like that, it'd be such a better place because we'd have so much better transition. The reality is we don't, right? But that's what I believe because communication solves all of those problems. Why aren't you happy? Well, I'm not happy anymore because you're making me work 4 hours instead of 2 today. Well, I understand, but let's help you find a place where you can only work 2 and hang out at the water cooler for some, right? Because that's not here anymore. It's just about communication. Okay, hey, why aren't you happy? Well, I want to be doing accounting work and you have me doing property management work. Okay, well, let's figure out how we can make the switch on it. There's no rule, no problem. I'll find an accounting job somewhere else, right? That's my definition of happy. Happiness is not doing what I don't want you to do because we're not aligned and therefore one of us isn't. So we have to be aligned. And so to create that, you have to understand what you're working towards, what that alignment is ultimately trying to reach you. And that's the key in EOS because you create your vision, you create your goals, and everybody can see it in a framework that makes sense for them. They don't want to be a part of it, no problem. Get away from the water cooler, go away to the water cooler somewhere else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it's kind of back to expectations, right? So they're coming into this role. And that was kind of my next question. So we talked about EOS, accountability, but where do you see hiring fit in, right? Is it part of the hiring process where you really narrow down these expectations?
Yeah, I think this is one area where I'll tell you is I need to get better at. Quite frankly, this week and being at the Hermosi 2-day workshop really taught me that I need to get even better at this. I've always been pretty good in that, really defining the avatar that you want. I understand that, but do we always do a great job of that? No. Really defining what the job is so that they understand it, so that we do they're pretty good, but we're really good, probably not. Really telling them the culture that they're going to be coming into, really showing them the culture that they're going to be coming into. All of those things are so, to your point, important. Yes, it is in recruiting, it is in hiring, it is in onboarding. That's so important. I want to get even better at that. For a long time in this business here, in all of my business, I refused to let anybody come into the company without me hiring because, we had tried a few times and every time we ended up letting them go relatively quickly. And I always used to just say, that's my intuition. I'm really good because I got a really good intuition. And do I? Probably. It's my company's. I understand, do I want to have around it? So yes, I'm going to have better intuition than somebody else's. But the reality is that's not what the answer needs. The answer needs to be, we really need to define who it is that we're looking for. And we really need to define to them what it is that they're coming into. So that is, to your point, incredibly clear around expectations and that we are very clear on what that's looking like coming in. And that's going to solve most of the battle because it's too late once they're there if they don't want to be a part of your culture because they don't like it. They want to be at the water cooler as the extreme example, and we don't want them at the water cooler. They need to know that before they start. Right. And then onboarding is huge. It's another thing that we're not the best at. We've got a lot better at it. But what does their first 4 weeks look like? Really massively trying to set them up for success. The same as if you look at the house, right? In the real estate space, if you pull up and they've done a landscape for 3 months, there's a window broken, but the insides, they just put $200,000 into the kitchen and the bathroom. Well, I don't give a shit. Your bathroom, the window's broken or the landscape looks like shit. Curb appeal sucks. I don't want nothing to do with the property. It's the same concept, right? So that onboarding is really important to them to get them up on the right feet so they don't go down a negativity hole or whatever else might create problems. So it is, to answer your question, in my opinion, it's massively in that front end, really defining your avatar, really interviewing well, hiring slow to really find that right person, bring them into your property, give them tours, not all properties, but of your office, right? In our leasing department, they just implemented, half day, drive arounds. I think they called something like that, where before we hire a leasing agent, they got to spend a half of the day out in the field with the team. So they really understand what kind of job they're getting into, what kind of properties we might be leasing, things like that. So yes, yes, it's extremely important, the interview process, hiring process, and really, again, be authentic in your company and who you are and what you're trying to do, because you don't want to convince and trick somebody into coming into your world, because it's the worst thing you can do, right? They're top talent. I really want them here. So I'm going to fake who I am. Then they get here and find out who you really are. And you guys don't, right? Like, they don't fit your culture. Well, you're going to have, that's the most costly thing in business is people, right? People turnover. It's easily the most costly thing in any business is that people turnover costs. So trying to avoid that at all costs is wildly important in my opinion.
That's amazing, man. I wanted to pivot just a quick bit. So you've had not only one successful company, but multiple successful companies. And there's some gurus out there that say that you should probably put all your eggs in one basket and just focus primarily on let your main thing be your main thing. How have you had success? Like what do you predicate having so much success in plethora of different businesses?
Yeah, first and foremost, I think that I would also get on that bandwagon and say, to say that saying around focus on one thing. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with that. And I think that I probably would do things a little bit differently this time, or the next time than this time, quite frankly. So I kind of a little bit agree with that. With Dover Mosey's, just get to $1 million in EBITDA, a single thing before you do anything else. That's their kind of claim, if you will. I definitely did not do that. Not even close to getting to $1 million in EBITDA in any single standalone operating business, right? We went right into investing in real estate, right? So that's a little bit of a different vertical because you're creating equity really fast in a lot of it, which then opens up doors and you're playing the finance team and the leverage, right? So my kind of 5-year growth has been massively around that, which is essentially getting really good at borrowing capital and managing financing, if you will, right? To be able to build a $110 million portfolio that's right around a 70% LTV. So a little bit different there. But all of that to say, if you don't do that and you do what I do, and how do you have success, to your original question around running multiple businesses, the answer is who, not how. Like, all day. I don't know if you guys ever heard that book or read that book, Who Not How. I've read it twice. It resonated with me more than anything the first time, because it was just like EOS. Like, it's like when I believed it wholeheartedly, just didn't have a framework to attach it to. So when I read Traction, it was like, this is everything I ever dreamed of. This is perfect because I kind of do all this already. Now I have a framework to get other people to live off of. I don't have to say books. So I could use that as a scapegoat. And the same thing for Who Not How, in a way of like, I don't do a lot anymore. Like, what do I do on a weekly basis? Like, sometimes I don't even know. I just solve problems all day, every day. And I don't have enough time to do the rest. But it's like, early on, I was on a computer 12 hours a day. Right now, the only time I'm really on a computer is when I'm on Zoom calls. And so the who, not how, to me is everything. You got to find the right business partners. You got to find the right people within the organization, the right leaders, hire the right people early on and often, overpay, right? Just find the right people, because it's an investment at the end of the day. The difference of, people play with, coaching clients of mine will play with me. Hey, like, I want to hire someone for $90,000 a year. They want 110. Doesn't make sense for me. I said, why? They're like, well, it's cost too much. I said, well, you're not spending money on a cost. You're making an investment in a person's life for the rest of their life. Think about it that way, right? Think about it from a standpoint of, you're spending an extra $20,000 investment. Well, what's the upside and what's the downside? The downside is roughly $2,000 a month, right? Because you can always get rid of them if it doesn't work out well. The upside is the upside's, they're making you $20 million a year and you're paying them $1 million a year. So, like, why not make that investment if you think it's the right investment and not worry about the cost? Because the reality of the situation is every single person that you hire is an investment, and their job is to create more value than what you're paying. That's it. And so it's about value creation to me, whatever you're doing, because a lot of people you hire at a back office is not a direct correlation to revenue, right? But the reality is what their job is to eliminate someone else from having to do that so that that person can go make revenue. And so the value creation at the end of the day is what value are we creating above and beyond what we're paying them? And so if the $110,000 a year person can create more value than the $90,000 a year person, it's more than $20,000 delta, why the hell wouldn't you hire? Simple as that, right? Like, obviously, you guys know it's way more complicated, but if we can simplify it and break it down to that simple math around the investment in a person, just like a property, then go hire, right? And if you make a mistake, you pivot. And that's one thing I say is the only thing constant in business is change. So if you're not used to change, you don't want change, don't come work for me because it's got to be changed. It's the only thing you should get used to. And it's the same battle when you're coming to hire people, right? It's like, just think about it differently. It's an investment. What value creation are they giving you, right? If it's an assistant, how much more money can you go make? If it's an accountant, what's it going to teach you or educate you or give you the numbers so you can go make better decisions? And what that value is, and evaluate that compared to the cost. And so that's how I look at everything. It's how I look at people, how I look at every dollar we spend. Now, aside from lifestyle dollars, which I'm okay saying that I know it's a waste. Right. But if it creates happiness, I'm good with it. Right. And that's I got to create happiness. I'm a big convenience guy. So I'll spend money on convenience all day if it means my life's better. I'm kind of worried about certain things around just convenience. Right. So I can talk to a blue in my face. I'll shut up. It's like the grass cutting story. I haven't cut my grass since the moment I didn't know my own because number one, I absolutely hate cutting grass. And number two, I can do something more useful with my time of adding more value. And so if I pay them $30 an hour, can I go make more than $30 an hour? If the answer is yeah, then I'm not cutting grass. Because I'm stimulating the economy and doing everything else. But I'll stop there.
I have a question. So you said almost 100 team members across all of your businesses. Can you recall that one team member in any one of the businesses that really just changed the game where you were just like, whoa, damn, I'm so happy I made this hire.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll equate all the way back to the very beginning. And I'm able to shout out his name, TJ Bencho. He knows who he is, but TJ ran a couple property management companies, had a bunch of investments on his own, was an entrepreneur his whole life, never really had a job. A couple years older than me. So you can imagine, 15, 20 years as an entrepreneur. Took a while to hire him, and we did not have nowhere near the amount of money we could pay him whatsoever for that job, but we bit the bullet and paid it anyways. And basically what that happened was it allowed us to scale the portfolio. So he took over property management. He was our second hire in our business really early on. Again, it was really testing what I had just said a little bit ago around investing and not at a cost because we didn't have anywhere near the money to afford. He was making significantly more than I was making, right? I was making anything. So, to go hire someone of that kind of caliber without making money myself was a massive risk. But he took over property management for us from day one. And so we knew we could buy a house, get it renovated, handle the financing, and then we never had to think about it. And so that was insanely massive for us because we can then focus on growing real estate portfolio and not have to worry about the deals once they're done. Absolutely changed everything for us. Literally changed everything for us and was more worth it than you could ever imagine in terms of just, again, leasing, maintenance, dealing with the properties, the tenants, everything that comes with the portfolio. He oversaw that. And then he was the basis for why we started a management company underneath him. He was running it for a while. I mean, he's been everywhere in the company now. We moved him. He grew wholesale to, multi-million annual revenues for a year for us. Then we moved him back. Now he's back running management again. But he was that person for us. And again, it was the equation around there's a value to the investment of somebody. It's not a cost. And if that value can be created in them or whatever they can allow somebody else to do, it's game changing. So that investment and bringing him onto the team allowed Brian, who's my partner, and myself to just focus on growing the portfolio. So I was able to focus on the accounting and the finance. Brian was able to focus on finding more deals. And so we were able to create volume bigger and better than we ever thought we could by having him on that. So that's the best example I could possibly give you there.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, we can look at team members just like deals or properties, right? So like what attached ROI do they have to them,
Yeah.
and make it an investment directly into them so that you can get a return on your investment. So, no, that's amazing, man. I love that story.
Now let's say you're hiring or you're starting a brand new company, right? Do you recommend hiring from the top down or the bottom up? There's a lot of different opinions on this. Now, of course, you would appreciate that there's a financial consideration with hiring top down in terms of dollars, but let's say we put money aside. What would be your thought process around starting a new company from a hiring perspective?
Yeah, I wouldn't look at it top down or bottom up. Quite frankly, the way I would look at it is what's the biggest need that we need to solve today? Like, what's the biggest constraint of the business in order to get profitable? Or if we're trying to just scale, let's say we're a SaaS company, we're just trying to get recurring revenue on a membership basis for a SaaS product, then maybe it's not directly bottom line to EBITDA, but what's the biggest constraint we have right now and how do we solve that problem? That's how I would look at it. And if it's a lower level person or a higher level person, then that's what you need to go down. To the G's original point, it's like, what is your ROI? And so you don't want to go hire a senior executive at 200, 300, 100, whatever it is in your world, if that ROI isn't going to be significant enough because it's not going to solve the biggest problem. So that's how I look at it, right? And so a lot of times I don't usually think it's an executive. A lot of times it's usually like, if you're starting a business, you're probably the most important person. Well, how do I free your time up? So I would ask you, what are the most important things you're doing on a daily basis to grow your business? And then I would look at the things that I don't want you doing anymore. And I would think about a role and an avatar which can solve the problem to free you up, or whoever it is that's the talent in the business that's doing the thing that ultimately makes us whatever it is we're trying to do, which I would imagine is profit in the business, right? So whether that's sales rep or, in our case, we build high-end decks, right? And so we don't have a builder that can build another high-end deck, and we have three and we need to build a fourth. Maybe we need to go, our biggest constraint right now is another deck builder. So we go hire another deck builder, right? Or we have a deck builder, we need a labor, right? Or whatever. But even as early on as possible, right? Like, what do you need? Well, if someone answer your emails and set up your Zooms all day, well, then hire that person. But if you need someone to manage your portfolio so that you can go buy more real estate, well, then hire that person. So it just depends on the time consumption that's going on and the constraint in the business. That's what I would hire. And I don't care what it costs. I build the avatar for the exact person I need to go get to solve that problem. And then whatever it costs is irrelevant because it's just.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I imagine an admin role for most entrepreneurs makes a lot of sense in the early days. And then
especially in real estate. Okay.
so much admin, and then probably some type of sales role, right? Because then it's like, well, how do you have a business if you're not selling anything?
Correct.
And then you got to learn how to fulfill, right? So that makes a ton of sense.
A lot of businesses that are new and they're selling something, they're usually the co-founder or the founder or whatever is the salesperson. They're selling. So then it's an assistant of them. And then, you don't want to replace them at their best, highest and best use. You might want to go hire an operator. Right? Like, let's say we're manufacturing a product, and Johnny's the best salesman in the world. Johnny invented the product and Johnny's great at selling Johnny's product. Well, I want to go hire someone to run us. Right? I don't want to go hire another salesman. I want Johnny selling. But Johnny sucks at selling. Johnny invented this thing and is really good at making it, and getting it to make it for even cheaper. Okay, now I need to go hire sales. So it just really depends on the business that you're in and the people that you already have, right? And basically the people you can't fire.
You brought up constraints, right? Which is a huge part of your decision-making process. What's been a common constraint maybe across your multiple businesses that you're in outside of people, right? We've talked about people.
Yeah. Capital's always been one, which is a little bit different, right? In the real estate investment world, capital's always been one, and we continue to always have that problem of who's our capital raisers, because it's really hard to justify the investment in a capital raiser because you're not getting a bottom line, right? You're not getting profit. You're not getting revenue or profit. You're getting more debt. It's really hard to create an ROI that makes sense there mentally, right? So like that's the world where I cringe up when other people cringe up around hiring. Yeah, dude, it's really difficult here. So that's definitely one for sure. And then, management's a grind. Everybody in the management space, managing properties is a grind, man. You're dealing with tenants. I love tenants, right? But the reality of the situation is you're dealing with some folks that are in rough situations sometimes. Every property we have, certainly on a lot of Section 8. We're in Pittsburgh. We started with nothing. And so we were getting our hands on whatever we could make sense. And so you got tenants that feel like they should get the world handed to them on a silver platter. And that's just not reality. And so you've got to figure out a way to deal with that. People destroy your properties. You got to deal with that, right? So there's a lot of noise. And it's a very thankless industry. You could do everything in the world for a tenant and they don't even say thank you, right? So that industry in general is a little bit tough for sure. So that's definitely always been a little bit of a constraint for us. Our accounting business is just really good accountants. It's tough. It's hard to find a good accountant in today's world. And so, that's that one over there. And my business, I've been fortunate enough that sales has always been a struggle for us, marketing. The good news is I've never really needed massively good marketing. Now we're starting to need it because our businesses are getting to the side where it's hard to create additional revenue. You've got to really do all the channels. You've got to, this is aside from buying homes, but we've got to generate 120 leads a week now in construction. How are we getting them? In accounting, we've got to really start to ramp up the leads that we're getting in order to get the closes that we need. And so we've got to build some marketing around that. And that's not my skill set. So that's definitely been our constraint lately is I've got to really kind of start to fix that side of the world to be able to generate and track and make sure we understand our lifetime value of our customer, really make sure we understand our cost of capital. We can measure all that really well, but the reality is we still got to execute and we're not, right? And so that's definitely been a big constraint for us lately.
Makes a lot of sense. And then you come from a financial background, so I'm very curious on your answer here, but what are a few key metrics that you're paying very close attention to, whether it's on your scorecard or just general financial reporting in the company?
Yeah, the biggest thing I would tell you by far is understanding your lifetime value of your customer and their cost acquiring. You have to have a good ratio there in order for your business to actually scale. That's definitely one. You got to have EBITDA. You got to understand what you're making at the end of the day. If you're losing money, you've got to make changes. We have a couple businesses right now that are losing because of the way that we are structured. So understanding that every single month is massively important. And then on the real estate side for us, obviously collections is huge. We got to make sure we're always understanding our collections on our rent roll because it's a different business, if you will. And so we're ultimately understanding our net cash because we're really highly levered in any business that goes the way that we have when we started with no money. So understanding what that looks like, understanding what our loan to value ratio is, and then ultimately what our cash on cash is, on that back end side, which isn't phenomenal. So certain mistakes can create big problems in that cash flow on a monthly basis when it comes to, our DSCR at the end of the day, our debt service coverage ratio, making sure what our net cash is. So those are a few of the biggest ones that I would tell you, but everybody focuses on revenue. That's all they focus on. And I was in that boat too for a long period of time and it's so irrelevant. You've got to understand, you've got to get to a good EBITDA margin. You got to be making money on a monthly basis. And then you got to understand exactly how to scale that. And that's through how are you acquiring your customers? And then how long do you keep that revenue for, right? So recurring revenue is obviously the best, but if you don't have that, you have to understand, what's my turnover on those folks? And how hard is it costing me to generate new money? And how much money am I getting for that person? That's the key fundamentals from a KPI perspective to understand how your company is ultimately performing at the end of the day. The rest is irrelevant. It's truly irrelevant today because that's how you have to make money or exit, right? Because we only do this thing for two reasons. One is cash flow or two is exit. Otherwise, what are we doing? Right? When it comes to pure business, the third is if you want to invest in real estate, you're creating that wealth. That's the world I was in and still am in. And so obviously you're measuring, what am I worth? But it's just on a piece of paper. So you've got to be creating cash flow. And then you also got to be able to create a business that's sellable. Otherwise, it's just lifestyle at that point, right? It's just a job. And nobody wants just a job. That's why we become entrepreneurs, is to create a business that's either creating cash flow when we're not there or that we could sell. And so those are the massive key metrics that I would tell you is key for either of those two.
So what you're telling me is you don't care about the Stripe revenue screenshots, apparently.
No. I mean, they're fun. And look, the more money you can make at top line, the better chance you have of making bottom line.
Sure.
One of my mentors told me the greatest thing that ever happened to me, right? When I had to lay off those 14 people, it was because, we were belly up, cash flow on a monthly basis. And we can't just pay people. We're losing the money. So the greatest thing you ever did was build the portfolio, right? I had to $70 billion balance sheet at the time. So it was easy. Lay off those people and I'm fine, right? A lot of people don't have that problem. They start losing money. They don't have a balance sheet. They didn't invest in real estate. Well, now there's no business.
Sure.
So top line helps as long as it can find ability to create the bottom line, right? From a standpoint of you can flip the switch and you're fine. If you're not there, then you got to worry about bottom line. That's it. Or you got to have partners, investment partners, capital partners that can invest, give you debt, or give you equity to be losing money. Right? Otherwise, there's no business.
Right. No cash flow. Makes sense. So moving into a few of our formal questions. The first one, and very curious on the answer here because you're involved in so many different industries and businesses, but what does a typical day in the life look like for Casey?
Yeah. Tough question, man. Right now, it's all over the place. Lots of Zoom, lots of meetings, right? Like my Mondays, all one companies, all my L10s, all my meetings there. L10s are the formal meetings through the OS. My Tuesdays are another company. Fridays, I try to keep completely blank so I can catch up on any financial work I need to do, such as looking at financials, building a model if I'm still doing that, analyzing a multifamily deal where if I'm going to be the one kind of really diving into the numbers on someone analysis someone built, I try to save a lot of that for Fridays. Doing more marketing now, right? So a lot of podcasts. I'm trying to get on business development. I'm doing a lot of that for the accounting company. So talking to clients, analyzing deals. That's really my life. And I got 3 little babies at home. So, when I'm not doing that, I'm taking care of them, changing diapers. It's quite literally at home. So, that's what I would tell you the day in the life of me. It's very, very, very fluctuating, right? And then solving problems. Like, problem come up. Just got to solve those problems on a regular basis, right? So a lot of phone calls, a lot of people saying, "Hey, here's the issue. How do we solve it?" Right. That's a lot of today for me now.
And then where do you see, if you had a crystal ball, where do you see the market headed in the next year or so? Obviously, we have the election coming up at the end of the year here. We have some Fed meetings. Where do you see us headed in the next 12, 24 months?
Isn't that the
$1 million question?
$1 million question that I refuse to give you a legitimate answer for because I have no idea. With the political scene we're in right now and the election and what's going to happen depending on who wins is a totally different world. So I don't even want to hesitate to start thinking about that. But what I would tell you is I think rates are finally stabilized. They're going to start coming down a little bit, right? So I pay attention to rates the most out of anything because of the business that I'm in. I hope that happens. I think the economy would, from a real estate side, should stabilize if that happens. But obviously, there's a lot of murmur out there right now around the economy going into a recession. Obviously, the stock market recently fell, depending on when you air this, right? But dude, that's all I got. I don't even want my big thing is I don't care. Like, I focus on what's in front of me today, what's going on in my business, and how I solve today's problems, and the rest will take care of itself. Like, Hormozy always says the economy is irrelevant because I did $30 million in gym when every gym in the country was closed. Kind of the approach that I take to this thing of like, if I just focus on what's in front of my face today, then I'm going to be able to solve those problems and be able to do what I need to do to create money and the revenue and the scale that I need to create. What happens around me across the country and the economy and everything else is just noise. Does it affect me? Yeah, it affects me, but I can't think about it because I can't control it. So just focus on what I can control today and I'll be okay.
Great answer.
Thanks.
And then if you could leave one last gem, it could be about business, life, entrepreneurship, family, whatever you would want to leave, what would that be?
Yeah, I'd give you 2 things. Love that question. And I'll keep it wildly simple for you. One is find your happiness and chase it like hell. Because what's the point in living if you're not, right? Personally, business, whatever that is. Find your happiness and chase it like hell. For me, my happiness is chasing happiness. What I mean by that is like whatever is making me excited for that day, I want to go after it, and that continuously changes. Because the beach doesn't make me happy. The idea of chasing the beach is what makes me happy. So that's what I want to do. And then number 2, I would say keep more real estate. To keep as much real estate as you possibly can. Keep it. You'll thank yourself later.
So true. Love that. And then where can people find you, Casey?
Yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Casey Ryan Quinn. I got a website, CaseyRyanQuinn.com. CityLifeResidential.com is our company website. Accruity.com is our accounting website, Bridge City team, but we're local here in Pittsburgh, so don't worry about us. But if you want to invest with us, City Life Residential, check us out. If you need back office help, Accruity.com for sure is the place to go. We would love to help you, particularly if you're a real estate investor or in any verticals in wholesale, brokerage, anything you got going on in space. We'd love to help you out there. Accruity.com, or just hit me up on the socials. Casey Ryan Quinn.
Boom. Love it. Let's go. Thanks for coming on, man. It was an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for having me.
That's a blue gem, and it really only took like 2 cribs on it being beat up by my girl, that pretty new Benz. I'm talking cash on cash.